Adolpho, Clint, Bryce, thank you so much for your time today. First of all, huge congratulations. This is it's such a kind of physical response I had to the film. It kind of stays with you as well, you know, kind of days and weeks later from when I first saw it. So huge congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I guess starting with, am I right in saying you read the book, the novello, and it had a connection with you immediately from reading it? Is that fair?
I had read it when it first came out,
Yeah.
and did have a strong connection with it, and it started a lifelong love of Dennis Johnson's writing. But then I didn't think about it as a film until it like came back around into my life after I made Jockey, which we all three worked on together.
Yeah.
There's some producers who had the rights to the book, and they asked me if I'd like to adapt it, and then reading it again and thinking about it as a movie just like reignited. I saw so much more in it.
Was it how was that journey of adapting it? Was it immediate for you in terms of, you know, you already knew the story and stuff, but that idea of bringing it to life?
I could see a shape for it pretty quickly, and like a general shape that the film would take for the structure of it. But then it was very difficult writing with Greg, my co-writer Greg Cuidar, and I. It took a long time to kind of get it right because it doesn't have a lot of the traditional plot mechanisms that you can rely on, which was a bit tough to work out.
That's what I think one of the things that I love about it is that it's almost a meditation in a way of kind of sort of, you know, of a life.
Yeah.
And kind of then sort of almost mirrors back on us to kind of think about our own kind of journey. There's obviously a love story at the centre of that as well. The landscapes and those locations in terms of where you transport us and where we're fully immersed, you know, from railroads to kind of small towns to these forests and by those rivers and lakes. It's just so beautiful. How did you find them? And the way that they've been shot and is just, incredible. What was a bit of a journey, I imagine, to kind of finding the right places that had the kind of right look and texture, I guess, for what you were trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, it was really important to shoot in the place where the story's set, and we're lucky to have producers who also felt really strongly about that, and so we were able to shoot in Eastern Washington, around the place where the book is set, and then I'll let Adolpho speak to how we did that.
Do you guys just go on like loads of recce trips and stuff and take pictures? I mean,
Yes.
We've
been all over the state trying to find the right locations that will work for the different years of the movie, because the movie is like, what, 80 years of his story. So we were trying to find different forests that look like really ancient forests that look like they have been cut already, and all those textures. So we went to a lot of places. We spent a lot of time in a car and trying to find the perfect locations to it, and we were really lucky with what we found. It's a really special scenery there.
It's also the kind of the time of day that things are shot as well that I think for me add loads to this story of how we feel about it as well. That's a kind of, that's not, you can't like that, you know, in terms of, so you're relying on Mother Nature, you know.
Who's a very good lighting specialist, actually.
Yeah, she's the best. Yeah. But how do you kind of, you know, you've got a schedule, you've got to kind of hit things and get things as well. But I think because the film feels so natural, and that we're just observing this man's life and these things, and it feels so unset up and unset like. But the reality, I imagine, there's so much kind of goes in that's behind the curtain that we don't see in terms of that. Or how much did you try and lean into the nature and the natural side of things with these shots and with these scenes that you captured?
Well, I think from the start we wanted to make the movie as approachable as possible and intimate at the same time. Because being a period piece, it's kind of maybe sometimes easy to just like detach yourself from it as a viewer. And because we wanted to have people to be able to connect with it, we thought that being as naturalistic as possible and make it really, really simple also in a way that people can watch it and relate to it. we just decided to be as naturalistic as possible, and that meant shooting only with natural light, real fires, real candles, and etc. And it's more challenging than it seems, actually, because you need a whole crew that wants to do that and embarks on that vision, and means a lot of scheduling. And I mean, we were lucky to actually shoot the whole movie in actual locations and had an amazing team that built that cabin, for example, all locations. So we were able to be inside when the light was not ideal, and then go outside when light was better, or have a cast that would be okay on rehearsing when light was not good, and then shoot it for half an hour when light was good. So it is really a team effort on everybody from the prep to the shoot, and even later to really embark on it and embrace it. Yeah.
I love that. There's so many kind of moments in the film that I absolutely love, but I love that scene where they've kind of used the stones to map out the cottage, and Felicity's kind of like, and the window's going to go kind of here, and it's just a really simple but beautiful kind of scene that kind of just really sort of sticks with me, with the kind of, the simplicity of life and them, that journey that they're on together. It's incredible.
Thank you. It's a good example of a scene, actually, when what we tried to do as much as possible was take the script and there was a lot of thought put into it, but also use it as a jumping off place. And Joel and Felicity were incredible at this, of taking a scene or a moment like that. In the script, it was just supposed to be that they were placing some rocks. It was just going to be a little moment, and that was it,
No.
And then they kind of built this. We had time, and so we gave them a moment and just let them play, and they kind of built this moment out of it that became a really touching scene in the movie. And there's so many things like that that just started out as and to what Adolpho was saying, we had limited time, but we were always trying to give the actors space within that limited time so that maybe some magic could come out of it. And if we had chickens or whatever, or puppies, just like giving the actors space with them and seeing what happened, and he would follow them, and usually something pretty beautiful would come out of it.
What it just made me think about the family portrait scene.
Oh yeah.
As well. And that's kind of just like when the baby has a little fart and just that kind of like, that's the most beautiful reaction from Joe in that moment of kind of, it's just there's
the heartbreak that he's showing us, while also you're feeling his love for his family, but his heartbreak at leaving and all the things, and then the baby burps and it's perfect.
It's a burp, not a fart. Sorry.
I think that's one of the great things about working with Clint. He's really amazing in doing that, giving actors space to just like improvise and do things differently, and give them the space and really fight for a smaller footprint so we can actually like just follow them around and have a 360 environment. And the way he makes that happen with the cast, and not trying to stick with his plan all the time, and being able to adapt with the kids and animals, etc. is just like so good to work with someone like that. It's just like really a privilege.
It's really effective, and the kind of the pace of it as well. It's just got this lovely kind of considered. It really makes you just kind of take a moment whilst you're watching it as well. It's extraordinary.
When the pace is really important and would not be possible. It's really hard to like calibrate it. It wouldn't be possible without his music to kind of lay as the bed, and it really is like, if the thing's a river, it's the thing that's pulling you through.
Where did it start for you, Bryce? For you, was it script? Was it book? Was it kind of rough cut? What was the kind of start?
I mean, I think because this is the fourth film that Clint and I have worked on, and the second that with Adolpho as well. So, I scored Transpecos and Jockey and Sing Sing last year that Clint co-wrote with Greg, and so there's a lot of, it's like a band kind of like
another band.
We communicate a lot, and I knew the book. I had read versions of the script. We had talked quite a lot before Clint started shooting, and obviously the American West and the American landscape, American identity, these are things that I think about a lot, and that there's a long tradition of music inspired by it. And so there was a lot to work with. from the get-go. But I think, so it sort of went in two phases for me. I wrote I actually got excited and also went to the Pacific Northwest around the time they were starting to shoot. And so I took advantage of a tour, actually, where I had 4 or 5 days off near Portland, Oregon. And I also really wanted to get away from some recent scores I've done that were really all, a lot of times it's sort of late in the game and you're forced into a deadline and you're like sitting at home in your computer working with samples that will then record that. I was like, I don't want to do this film that way. So I really decided to go into old recording studios, old analog studios, and using ribbon microphones and old upright pianos. And so there's some a lot of the score is recorded at a place called Flora Flora that's Tucker Martine. It's an old recording studio in Portland, Oregon, where the Nationals worked, where some R.E.M. albums were recorded. It's really not the place you record film music. In fact, even it was the first time they'd put a monitor in the live room.
Oh, wow.
And it was this huge, where do we get the cable? I'm like, but it's a fantastic, it's a really, it has the most incredible gear. So it's members of the Oregon Symphony, and these were all off picture, a suite of themes that I wrote inspired by Clint's, script and the book and the discussions, and I was seeing stills from their work, and that's about half the score, and including the main theme, recorded in that way. And then working to picture was a real joy, because it was really it had so much the cinematography and just what they had done with the film, which is that there's a lot of room for music. And music had kind of almost like a character, a role to play. So there was a lot of, and it was challenging. It was a beautiful challenge.
Yeah. Did you have an idea, Clint, in terms of that of not necessarily the placing of music, but the role and relationship that it has with different situations that he finds himself in, or where he is, whether he's home or he's away, and those kind of things. What were your thoughts in terms of the conversations, I guess, you had about that, and also about the kind of instrumentation and things as well, or did you, or was it just a case of?
We did. We talked a lot going into it, and I think in the same way of working with Adolpho, working with Bryce, I know it's going to be good. It's it's not. I don't need to say all right, we need to make sure that we have a piano and whatever. And but I wanted to communicate as much as possible what I was feeling about it, and part of that was saying I had a playlist that I'd put together that just helps me and kind of helps the crew get the feel of the film as we're making it, that I sent to him. That's more for just inspiration of tones. And one thing we talked about early on was there's so many things about the film that are intimate and then also kind of epic in terms of the landscapes and everything. And so we just talked about that early on, of that it had space to have very small pieces and very quiet pieces, and it also had space to have a feeling like a Brahms piece or something that can really open up and be big, but then and it has so many moods and so many emotional colors to the movie, that then we had talked, and he said I'm gonna send some stuff over soon, and usually what that means is the samples off the computer, and then he sent a picture of record in the recording studio with the band. I was oh, you're actually sending some stuff. This is great, amazing.
Because it's really lovely to revisit the film, and it almost has a kind of I found it even more emotional, even lines where she says you're going to have plenty of time to be her daddy, and that obviously has a lot of weight, once you've seen the film. To revisit that sort of thing. And there's almost, in that particular, it's almost there's a little country music
the little guitar piece
behind that, which is so beautiful. And I love that kind of like you're saying about even the level of the music, it still cuts through and has an impact on you, but it's got such a tenderness to it almost in a way in the mix. And that piece is, is that do you see that as a song, or is it a piece of music? It felt like a little, almost like something that was on the radio in the background in a way.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it was beautiful to think of, without going period on it, but I definitely felt feeling the physicality of the instruments, and a lot of it I'm playing myself, which is not often the case, even the piano kind of you know, I felt kind of licensed to do that. Although there's also a couple really good pianists playing elsewhere. Yeah, there's some simple, beautiful folk music in there.
Yeah.
And then there's things that would be on the edge of the most ambitious, you know, sort of avant-garde moments in film that I've done. You know, like the fire scene or something where it's really, and it was really fun with Clint because he was pushing me to go further, you know, where we would, you know, and including with some of our other collaborators, Parker and Lee, and, you know, we have a kind of group of collaborators where we work together, and so it was, but I think that juxtaposition of music where you can kind of feel the, you know, the texture of these, you know, instruments that maybe aren't quite working, or a little, you hear the tuning peg, you know, there's a little bit of, there was noise on those, in addition to never having used a screen, there was because it was all this old analog gear, there was actually noise on the tape of some of these early, which I was like, oh, should I RX that out? And it actually ended up, it's still in there.
Yeah, good. It just adds emotion, I think.
You can feel the dust in the room of those places where you recorded it, and it just adds so much to it.
Yeah, and I mean, this is kind of my interpretation about the idea that with Gladys, it's kind of piano, you know, in terms of those, with her, you have kind of this, you know, not necessarily that pure instrumentation of that and stuff, but it's that kind of almost like the flutter and the kind of, you know, the sort of love and the way that it kind of, you know, you feel the kind of hands glide across the piano in a way. That's what I got from it. And from when
I'm going to use that now. That's great. It's fantastic. We're going to say that was the plan all along.
But when he, you know, when he's, you know, when he sees her, when he's with her, when they're together, sort of thing, that kind of like those almost like belly butterflies that you get in a way, sort of thing.
Yeah, someone said something beautiful to me last night, that somehow the music allows Gladys to be a dream, that as opposed to her sort of having to float around, you know, in a way like she's in the dream, but something about her, the physical presence of her on screen, and then the music at times when it is, you know, when it's unclear if she's in a dream or if she's really there, you know, that the music somehow brings that out. And but again, I kind of, the whole thing, the kind of poetic experience of the film, like you said when you first started talking about it, like as a meditation, that the whole, in a way, the music exists in that space the whole time, where it was kind of, and the music also, because of the restraint and the space in the film, both, you know, in terms of the pace and the dialogue, the music has like the kind of potential to express things that, you know, to sort of say, to feel things or say things that maybe aren't being said like right out loud. You know, it's a kind of, I think that the music occupies this poetic space with the cinematography.
Yeah, because there's moments where it feels like a kind of beautiful piece of art, you know, even like that shot of the boot, you know, kind of like years later and things like that. It's just got these, it's like an installation at times. It's just this kind of beautiful kind of, you know, and the lack of dialogue at moments as well. The images are speaking to us. They're kind of helping us kind of tell the story. Do you like working like that, where it's not that kind of obvious of like, here's a story with words, but we can tell you it in another way?
Yeah, I think that's what, like, you know, every film needs something different, right? But for this one, that was the excitement on like going back and rereading the book and thinking about it, of like the time period and the world and the story and the nature and the dreams and all. It just felt like very cinematically rich, and like there was a lot of possibilities to it, and to be able to have space for like a vision of somebody long gone coming back to you, and then you know, trees taking back boots and things like that, and a wolf girl coming in from the forest, you know, things like that. That it's just like, it's rare to get that space and to have that bed of things to play with. And yeah, anytime you can get to a space in a film where like you don't need words to say it, and it can come across, you're in a good place, and you should just let it do the talking for itself.
Yeah, and that kind of collaboration with the score and the music and the sound design as well, you know, in terms of, that's a big and important part of the experience with this film, you know, and us feeling like we're in those locations as well with that, I think.
Yeah, Lee Salavan is our sound designer, and he's a genius. We work in the whole like space like across the movie and all the stages is very collaborative. Of he's sending music early, and Adolfo's watching like cuts along the way and scenes along the way and helping figure out like how did you think about like going into it from this direction instead of that way. And then Lee is not just somebody who comes on at the end and just like mixes all the, you know, does the mix and then calls it good. He's very creative and like does sound design work along the way as we're editing with Parker Laramie, our editor, that influences how the scene is going to come together and that uses sound design to help tell the story. And I think we're really lucky to have him as well.
Is Kerry's tower real?
Oh man.
I want to go.
The fire tower.
I want to go visit Kerry's tower.
We found like the most amazing fire tower. There's all these fire towers up there in Washington State and in that region of Canada. We found the most amazing one, and then you know you always get into this situation with actor availabilities and your schedule and all of that. And it was snowed in. We couldn't get up there.
No.
And we weren't a big enough movie to like helicopter people in, you know, unfortunately. And so I'm really proud of what we did there alongside our production designer, Alexander Schaller. She, we didn't have enough money to like build a full fire tower and all that. We found a hill. And she and Adolfo and I sat down and we're like, okay, we can build a piece of this tower.
Amazing.
And so we had to like, we thought about it like an Ozu shot, like on the inside, where it's like you get one shot in this thing, it's going to play out kind of like a stage play, but really that's just a piece of a tower built on the side of a hill. So it's this beautiful hill that kind of drops off, and so it's right on the side of it. And then inside we had just that one shot. That's all we could do. And you have, I mean, Joel and Felicity are incredible, and they've both done stage work, so they're amazing. And then on the balcony we just had a little bit to play with. And we made a deal with the landowners that like, I will take it away when we go. And then they saw what she had built, and they're like, just leave it. We don't hang out in this
Summer
thing.
house.
Yeah.
Totally.
So it's like if you cut a fire tower in half.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kerry's presence in the film is so it's brilliant. It's I kind of want a spin-off film.
I know. Of what is her story?
Yeah. Because it comes so rich with, you know, she's kind of just bulging with story really that it really kind of, she made an impact both in her performance and the character.
Yeah, she's amazing. I mean, I think part of that is the character, but a big part of that is Carrie. That like anytime she walks into a room, the whole room kind of just like looks over and like she's an amazing actor and just like has there's a spirit that comes out of her that's amazing.
Bryce, when you then, you know, this beautiful collection that you've written before you've seen anything, and then you get to witness these performances in this as well, then does that reshape things in any way, or does it adjust, you know, anything that you're writing or you're thinking about that you haven't already written?
Yeah, I mean, in multiple ways. There were like the music that I was just, you know, there's that one. There are a couple pieces that are like have a kind of train-like feeling. These sort of pieces. I was like, I have to do that. But then really picture. I've had that experience before where you can do a million things before you see the film.
Yeah.
And none of it will work. And so a lot of, you know, in this case, it was like it worked out, but it was also kind of I needed to do that. I needed to do these things. I knew I was going to write them, so I was like, I'm going to do it. And then picture like there were layers I was writing. There was a second orchestral score, meaning scoring session, which I did with a bigger ensemble at the end. You know, the way you would normally do it.
Yeah.
I added layers, like the folk musician Sam Amadon plays on the score as kind of a character. So there were pieces I'd written, and then I said, Sam, can you intervene in these spots?
Yeah.
You know, so the fiddle playing is Sam, which is amazing because he's really, like, he's kind of like a Alan Lomax, like a folk historian of that era. You know, so he really kind of was like, you know, he really related to the story, and. So yeah, kind of adding. There were the beginning and the end of the film were quite difficult to find the tone. So those pieces I did many versions of, and finding which was also the ending, especially to find that music and the sort of the generosity of that music also, because a lot of the rest of the score is quite minimal. There were other moments that we were exploring some sort of, for me anyway, some harmonically quite adventurous, like these chord progressions that just become more and more, there's a lot of dissonance and complexity in them, and that was really enjoyable to do. And so again, there were like sort of shading and layering, and so if some of the spare themes at the beginning are in there, there were other things that was really like, it was sort of letting the quilt kind of leave out into the whole film. Yeah.
So interesting thinking about the end, in terms of how you want the audience to feel, or how you feel at the end of the film. That's kind of an interesting thing to think about when you're thinking about music, in terms of what do I want the audience to leave with. And you've obviously got Nick Cave coming in, sort of thing as well. So that's a kind of sort of interesting dance to do with the music. Was that, I don't know, what was the choice in how you would end it? Was it about, this is how I want the audience to feel, or this is where the character is, or a bit of both?
It was a bit of both. It was also a process of discovery, honestly, where like there's probably 35 different endings of this film that were cut along the way. As I didn't know what it needed to be, and what was scripted was very different than what kind of revealed itself in the edit. And then when we realized that, like, oh, it needs to end in this plane sequence, then even that, it was like, okay, well, where do you end it, and how do you end it? Do you end on his face? Do you end on a wide shot of a plane going across? Do you end on a dream, on one of his memories? And so it was really just a process of like understanding what the audience kind of needed in that moment, by just showing it to people, and then learning for myself what I needed in that moment, which I didn't know until showing it to people, and then with musically, it was interesting because like that was the one part that we never had a good temp track for. In some of the things we were using temp while Bryce was still writing, and that was one that I was like, I don't even know what to say that we need here. And then once he found the bed of what ended up being that piece, and we popped it in, and then we just kept building on it and building on it. It felt like you almost couldn't go too big with it, and he found just the right like amount of it.
And why Nick Cave?
Nick Cave we talked about. I think again there was space for a song in a way because of the room in the script, and this, it's, in a way Nick sort of says, it says a lot in that song, and he's a longtime hero of ours, and Clint, we talked a lot about, we sort of were just dreaming like if somebody wrote a song, and we talked about various people. You can probably imagine some of the others we talked about. And we were just really dreaming, like who would have thought that Nick Cave would do a song, but and then I get to do it with him, which is like a total, a real dream. So yeah, he knew and loved the book. Joel knows Nick. Clint sent him the film, and he loved it. And then I was sitting in Paris with my son, and I got a call from a 444 number, and I said, and it answered the phone. He's like, Bryce, it's Nick Cave. And I was like, what? And then he's just the most wonderful collaborator, incredibly like sweet and humble, and just really respectful. And he didn't want to kind of impose on the film. He wanted to be part of the sound world of the film. So he asked me to send him some music, and then he started from that and wrote this song, which is just, there's that line in there. It's like, I can't begin to tell you how this feels, which is like the whole film, really. He kind of found the words for it.
Yeah, it's because you have that narration in the film as well. It feels kind of like it's got a lovely pull through almost to that, in terms of like we're kind of getting it in song almost in a way, and kind of gives just us a moment as well as an audience to kind of go, all right. Whew.
We really wanted to like, because the score leaves us in such a specific place. And when we started talking about like, okay, will we put a song in here? There's lots of people that we talked about that we both love, and yet it felt like it would take it in a different emotional direction than what you've really built up to, and so it was really delicate to find that. Yeah,
the poetic nature of his kind of of Nick is just perfect for it. So great to chat to you all. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very
today.
much.
It's been really wonderful. Thank you so much.